as some of you may know, I work at a library, and very early on in this job, I found that a very popular children's title was Dogman. At my library, we have almost 2 whole rows of bookshelves dedicated to Dogman and Cat Kid. Honestly, I think it's because we have like at least 3 copies of every issue. I wish I was lying to you. I am not. We have so much Dogman. So all of that being said, I never really looked that much into the title itself. Like, there are a lot of books and I don't really take myself up on reading every single book I see. I would shelve a lot of Dogman books and I would think to myself,
oh, this is just kind of a cop dog that probably fights crime.
And then I continued on my day. That was until the Dogman movie came out. I got a lot of ads all the time for the movie, which is kind of weird. So yeah, through these ads was my first time I actually learned about Dogman. And let me just say, I was aghast. It shook me to my core when I actually learned what Dogman was about. Like, I genuinely could not stop thinking about how crazy gruesome it is and how no one acknowledges it, right? Like, that's what's crazy. When we all pretend like this is normal. Now, I am a full-grown adult with no kids, so it's easy to say that I did not go and see it in theaters. One of my favorite parts of working at a library is searching for things to check out for myself. So I went to shelve some DVDs and we had, you guessed it, the Dogman DVD. I'll show it to you like this so I don't like dox myself of where I work. Here is the beloved Dogman DVD. I have a lot to say about Dogman. I would like to say before I get into this that I am not reviewing the movie itself. Sorry if that's what you were hoping for. I do not have much to say about the quality of the movie. I am not a movie buff. I am probably the furthest thing away you could ever get to a movie buff. However, I will mainly talk about the things that happened in the movie to defend my case and overall the actual thing I want to talk about, which is Dogman is actually an indie mascot horror. Change my mind. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. So as soon as you even start looking into the general premise of Dogman, a lot of red flags start to appear. So the story of Dogman itself is about a human police officer, which the movie calls Officer Knight, and his police dog, Greg. And they are chasing down this evil cat called Petey, and the officer and the dog blow up and they get badly injured. The man's head was hurt and the dog's body was hurt. And so seeing these injuries, the medical staff had a totally normal and ethical solution. Attach the dog's head to the cop's body. I think another thing that's like also really freaks me out about this is that it's not like either of them are dead. During the scene, both are still communicating to each other. Like, imagine being alive and they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna take off your head. Crazy, that's crazy, that's crazy. This image itself immediately gave me Five Nights at Freddy's and Poppy Playtime vibes. Like, you're telling me that you're just going to put one living being inside the body of another living being? Like, that's the beginning of every single mascot horror. Initially, my first question after being concerned about how nonchalant the doctors were being, like, they definitely were acting like they do this all the time. After that, then I had the question of like what this means for existence itself. So like, I thought that because there were 2 living beings with their own consciousness and their own life, I was like, how do they balance the 2? I was like, are they both part of Dogman? Is it like an angel and a devil? Are they like working together? How are these 2 entities going to combine into the being that is Dogman? It is not that. It is nothing like that. There's no beautiful story, or I guess not even beautiful. There's no story of like 2 personas fighting together or like trying to come to terms with sharing the same body. No, that is not correct. They just killed the human. That is right. The man fully dies. It's not trying to preserve 2 lives. It's killing one person and then just making the dog a dog man. Does that make sense? Can we just take a moment to like step back and actually think about how crazy this is? Because I don't want to yap all the time. Like, I don't know if I'm talking too much about this, but I can't emphasize enough how crazy this is. He's gone. He's gone from the story. His presence, his existence is not in anywhere in the entity that becomes Dogman. Like, nothing is left of him but the body. For example, after all of this happened, they took the human's house. That's right, they took Officer Knight's house. So you think that if there was any part of Officer Knight left, be a way that he would be able to keep some of his assets. Not even I don't like it, it's more like a how is this a kid's book? If this was marketed as like an adult horror franchise, I would be like, okay, cool. Why are we not exploring this more? I guess my overall question is just a big why. Like, this is such a deliberate choice for an origin story. Stories of anthropomorphic animals happen all the time. Like, literally all the time, especially in children's media. For example, Mickey Mouse isn't a failed lab experiment. He's just a mouse with a pet dog and a friend dog, and kids don't care. It's not like we need to have a lot of buy-in of why a anthropomorphic dog exists. Another reason why I think this is such an unnecessary backstory is that there are cats in Dogman that don't follow this logic. Petey, who is an anthropomorphic cat, he can speak English, which I should also mention, Dogman cannot. Dogman just barks. However, Petey is a cat, he walks on 2 legs, and he speaks American English, and he's even taller than Dogman. There is this cat that is basically so anthropomorphic, and yet he did not have a tragic origin story. Well, I guess he did have a tragic origin story, but that's a topic for another time. But he doesn't have like a graphic, like human experiment origin story. Additionally, it's not just Petey. They show other cats who are also very humanoid. And guess what? They are never referred to as Catman. It's never hinted that they had this weird experiment happen to them. They are literally just called cats. Like, this is a normal thing for cats to be. And another piece of evidence of why it is 100% just genetic is because I started to read the comic books. Yes, I've gone as far as starting to read the comic books. There are images of Petey with a mom and a dad. So this is Petey and his mom, right? So humanoid cat mom. This is Petey's dad. Therefore, it is implied that he is a humanoid anthropomorphic cat just based on genetics alone. So moving on, I did go over the origin, but that's all basic stuff that you can learn in the trailer. And so to make watching the movie and reading the book worth it, I did want to talk about some other things that I noticed, which confirms my argument that Dogman belongs in an indie horror game. So, you know how I was saying how everyone was way too nonchalant about this whole Dogman experiment thing? This type of experimentation is so normal in this universe. So in this movie, we are also introduced to a fish named Flippy. Now, we are actually introduced to a normal pet fish picture, but then later in the movie, we are reintroduced to a fish corpse. This is just a corpse of a fish that is just chilling around. I don't know about you, but I do think it's psychotic to keep a dead fish longer than like a single day. But anyways, this corpse that people were just carrying around is actually a fish that turned evil and died. Then they experimented on this dead fish and basically turned it into a dead cyborg fish, which again, is kind of crazy. I know that ethics can kind of be subjective, but like, I don't know, it just feels a little bit weird to like not study it, being like, and I'm gonna make it just a weapon that kind of sits around. Like, that's the part that's weird. I can see the value of like cutting open a frog to like learn anatomy. I don't see the merit in like adding a robot arm to a dead fish. Now, that is not where it ends, because the fish actually comes back to life because a factory produces a quote, alive gas. Tell me that we're not living in this horror world where corpses can raise from the dead because they have a factory producing alive gas. If like the next Poppy Playtime chapter introduces that the Playtime company is creating alive gas to help like bring dead things back to life, like that would not be out of place at all. Tell me why Dogman has it. You mean you solved the problem of immortality? Again, especially after watching this movie, you could tell me that this is a plot of the next up-and-coming indie horror game, and I would 100% believe you. We have animals, we have cartoon characters, we have inserting consciousness into other bodies, we have weird body horror experiments, and we have a solution to cheat death and to have immortality. When I first heard of Dogman, when I first saw the wall of Dogman graphic novels at my work, I used to think nothing of it. I was just like, oh, this is a cool thing that I'm glad that kids are enjoying. Dogman presents itself like it's some light-hearted story of a police dog that runs around and fights crime. But after looking closer into the story and into this world, I've realized that it's a whole new genre. It's not the genre that you think it is. No, no, no. After this deep dive, I can confidently say that Dogman is actually a mecha.
Yes!
Did I surprise you? Because I surprised myself. You see, I watched the Dogman movie almost out of some sort of morbid curiosity. I wanted to figure out if this was a horror story or not. This is crazy, so I still stick to everything I said. I still think that it's a lot darker than you would expect for a kid's story. I also still agree that the origin story is so unnecessary. I stick by everything I said. I still believe that Dogman would make a killer, like, indie mascot horror. However, days later, my mind still trying to wrap itself around the Dogman universe. When I saw through my bias, I could clearly see the objective truth that is that Dogman is fully a mecha. It's so mecha coded. I don't know how I didn't see it before. So let me explain my new thesis, guys. In the movie, there's a lot of your typical action/sci-fi, nonsensical technology. There's the whole experimentation thing, but in addition to that, PD builds a lot of evil machines, like most cartoony villains do. Things are just being built, and I didn't really think of it. I'm like, cartoonish bad guys make evil machines. That's kind of a thing. Spoiler warnings for the end of the movie, so I guess I'll put that up here. The factory with the alive gas apparently has the power to bring buildings alive too. Still think the concept of alive gas is very glossed over and is very horror-esque. Dogman and PD team up to save little PD, and in doing so, PD builds a giant robot for Dogman, and then it proceeds into a Power Ranger-esque skyscraper scale fight scene. And initially, I didn't think much of it. I don't think that it's crazy for the end of a movie to end with like this type of big fight scene. It kind of seems, yeah, this is usually what happens in like action movies. So I kind of just wrote this off as like, oh, this is an in-scene fight, you know? It wasn't until the next day when I was at work, I decided to flip through the graphic novels and I realized, oh, they always fight like this. I realized how insane it was because again, you see Dogman, you see a dog in a cop outfit and you're kind of like, oh, I bet he's like solving a crime. No, he's just kind of like beating up buildings. It seems to be a pattern in most of the graphic novels. In this story, when it's not about the magic of fatherhood and family, every action scene, somehow there's like a tiny robot suit fighting a skyscraper. For example, here there is a tadpole in a robot body fighting a skyscraper. You want to know what their name is? It's Mecha Molly. Now, I will admit that I am not too into mechas personally, so I do not know all of the qualifying traits that a mecha needs. I am sure that there are some purists in the comments trying to tell me, actually, this is not a mecha because X, Y, and Z. However, look me in my eyes and tell me that Dogman is not at least a mecha in spirit. Basically, the moral of the story is that Dogman is actually a mecha. I also still believe that it is still an indie mascot horror, so both can be true, and I think both are true. Also, in case you were wondering, I do think Dogman and PD are co-parents and will eventually fall in love buddy-daddy style. Thank you for watching this video, and let me know what you thought about it. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. And yeah, see you next time, or maybe not. Bye.